Welcome to Have You Heard with Heather Darling. I'm Heather Darling, and today's guest is Tom Bergeron, who's the editor and chief content officer of ROI-NJ, a digital and print media outlet covering the world of business and politics in New Jersey. ROI launched in the fall of 2017, and Tom started the venture after serving as editor of NJ Biz for 4 years, and after spending years writing about entrepreneurs and startups, he decided to start his own venture. He is a 25-year veteran of journalism with a significant background in the world of sports. He worked for the Star Ledger, and after leaving the Star Ledger, Tom worked for Yahoo. He attended high school and college in Virginia, and he graduated from the University of Virginia before moving to New Jersey, where he and his wife Lori live in Morris Plains with 5 children, and when he's not writing and reporting, he's coaching their youth teams. He's coached more than 100 teams in the past 18 years and served as president of the local Little League. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Happy to have you. So what is ROI?
So ROI, at its heart, we're a business journal. We're a business publication. First of all, ROI stands for Return on Information. We try to make a little pun in the business world. So when we describe ROI, we don't necessarily describe who we are, but who we're writing for. And we're writing for the influencers in the business community and also the influencers in the government community. So people who are the decision makers. Now, the catch on that is it can be a company, it can be a 3-person company or a 30,000 person company. We're interested in talking to the decision makers, the C-suite people, giving them information that they need to know to run their business better and to live in New Jersey better.
How did ROI come about?
Well, I spent a lot of time in sports journalism, as you said. In a previous lifetime, I was a sports editor of the Star Ledger, as they say. Eventually transitioned over to business news, and I went to NJ Biz. Worked there for 4.5 years. Enjoyed my time there, and after all the time of writing about startups, writing about entrepreneurs, we decided to do it ourselves. So a group of us left and started ROI, and it's a handful of people here, and we love what we're doing. So 5 years later, we're still going strong. We're pretty happy about it.
So you serve business influencers in the state of New Jersey. Who exactly does ROI serve? I mean, is it a certain segment of the industry, or is it just business generally? It's not real estate, it's not pharma, it's everything?
It's everything. It's business in general. Some of the key areas are going to be healthcare, are going to be commercial real estate, are going to be pharma, are going to be technology, are going to be energy, are going to be banking, is going to be accounting. So I'm just rattling off law. It's really for business leaders. And the one thing that's interesting about New Jersey is we always say it's either the biggest small state or the smallest big state. I mean, we are a state of a lot of people crammed in a small area. And there's a certain number of people that are constantly interacting each other to do business and to work with government. And those are the people that we're trying to reach, the people that are trying to have impact within their own business, within their own sector, and within the state as a whole.
So has ROI always focused on business and government, or have you tried bringing other things in and found that they weren't a good mix, a good fit?
Look, generally, we're going to talk about business and government. So what we're going to do is we're giving people leads. We're talking about if we write about a certain company or a certain business, it enables other people, often service providers, often other people, to reach out and make a connection with them. Also, what it does is it helps people run their business. So we like to say when we write a story, let's just take one sector. Let's say the legal profession. If we write a story about the legal profession, we want the story to be interesting to other people in the legal profession, but also people outside of the legal profession. Maybe they're getting a business tip or a business idea of how they're doing business that might work for their business and their sector. So all of that is good. We're just trying to start a conversation, talk about different ideas that people are doing, what works, what doesn't work. Look, at the heart of every business journal are 4 things. Who's coming, who's going, who's hiring, who's firing. In other words, who's expanding, who's contracting, who's leaving the state, who's coming out of the state. If you just try to find out why people are doing any of those 4, I guarantee you the answer will be interesting to any entrepreneur or business leader in the state.
That's a great way of looking at it, and that's actually really helpful information probably to a lot of business owners watching. So ROI seems lately on that note to have a lot of information about business, women in business, and minorities in business. Is that because they're the biggest influencers these days, or is it for some other reason, like you feel that they maybe should be, they're underserved in the business community or underrepresented in the business community?
Well, look, when you talk about the business community as a whole, if you just want to talk about middle-aged white men, that's fine, but you're limiting your audience. And we're talking about a state where, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe women are 50%. Actually, that might be 51% of the population. Why would you eliminate talking about women in business? And then when you're talking about minority or underserved communities in our state, which is such a melting pot, that is a huge population. So really, when you're looking about how the state's going to do business, everyone needs to come together. We need to wear our diversity on our sleeve, as the governor said, because it's good for everyone, as all of the studies show. So our idea is to make sure that everyone is represented so everyone can feel what's going on, because all business studies will show that the diversity of opinions that you get into a room is going to make your business better. You want to have people of different age, different socioeconomic, racial backgrounds. All of that's going to help do your business better and improve your bottom line. So if we're going to cover the business community, we need to cover all of the business community. So do we make it a point of emphasis to cover women in business and underserved business leaders? Yeah, we do, but that's not all we cover. We cover everything. We cover the people that deserve to be covered, the people that are movers and shakers and are having influencers, and the people who, for what they're doing, will impact others. That's what we want to do. We want to get everybody's message out.
ROI seems to be very focused lately on manufacturing. Is that because manufacturing is the fastest growing or biggest opportunity in the state of New Jersey?
So manufacturing is always an interesting sidelight in New Jersey, because when people think about manufacturing, they think of the old Ford Motor plant. Manufacturing is huge in New Jersey. There's more than 10,000 manufacturers in New Jersey. We saw the importance of manufacturing during COVID, but we've been covering manufacturing strongly before then for a couple of reasons. One, as we've all seen, the more that you can onshore products, the better the country and the state are going to be. So that's important. Two, it helps grow business. When you think about anything involving manufacturing, it's a lot of different pieces and a lot of different parts, literally and figuratively. So when you talk about offshore wind, which is a huge emphasis of the governor, if you talk about the manufacturing that comes with it for all of the different parts, these are all different job creations, the ancillary benefits of that come at it. And then you also have to look at the state as a whole. If any state wants to grow their educated population, if it wants to grow their middle class, quote unquote, whatever that is, manufacturing is a real ticket for a lot of people to join the middle class. Manufacturing, people make a lot of money and they can't fill those jobs. I'm trying to get my kids into those jobs because they're great jobs at great pay. So we're trying to shine a light on everything that's happening here. And it leads to another thing. If you're creating a product in New Jersey, and you're that type of business, we're thinking, well, why wouldn't you hire someone from New Jersey to be the manufacturer of that product? Why wouldn't you keep things in state? That's going to be good for everybody up and down the state.
What's interesting is the way you started that was everybody thinks of Ford Motor Company, but you didn't go where I thought you were going to go with it, which is when you go past the manufacturer, you don't even know it. These facilities now are so small, and they have these little tiny machines that are doing some of the most incredible work. Like we have a guy one town over from me in a little industrial complex, and you go in there and he's making devices that they put on ships for GPS systems on ships and things for the military and all kinds of stuff in this one little facility that I drove by 100 times. It's maybe, I don't know, let me say 40,000 square feet. I'm being generous at that. It's probably far less. And, I think people do think of giant production companies and plants. They don't, like Bethlehem Steel was one, they don't think about little tiny robotic things that are being made now, like chips and stuff. So it's very different.
Look, jobs are jobs, and my friend John Kennedy at the Manufacturing Extension Program would get on me for not knowing the number. the average size of a manufacturer in the state of New Jersey, I think, is somewhere between 10 and 20. It's what you talk about. We make the joke, they're all spacely sprockets from the Jetsons. They're all making smaller pieces that all are part of a bigger industrial economic engine for New Jersey. The state has done a good job at increasing apprentice programs for manufacturing, trying to encourage more people to get into, what they'll call advanced manufacturing. I'm up in Morris County. CCM, a fantastic community college, has a new manufacturing program trying to show people all of the opportunities for the state, for both the workers. Look, this is something that can fix the next generation of workers or the current generation of workers. But again, one thing we like to do at RI is we're trying to bring businesses together. If you have something that needs to be manufactured, you can get it done in New Jersey. So let's start talking to each other and build the economy.
And that's an excellent idea, and you're right. John's a great representative, and he would probably be upset with both of us if we didn't know that number. So we all hear general stories, but maybe you know more about it. How are taxes in our state affecting businesses?
Well, listen, this is a double-edged sword you can give, and this is one where I'm not going to quote numbers because you can quote numbers that can go anyway. Do we have incredibly high taxes in New Jersey? 100%, absolutely. And I always joke that the governor got nailed for it when he honestly said, if taxes are your issue, don't come to New Jersey. It's an accurate issue. You're going to pay a lot of taxes. I'm now a business owner. I feel that myself. You get a lot back for those taxes. You get an incredibly educated workforce. You get opportunities with other companies in the state. It's going to be up for every company to decide, do I want to pay this tax to get something back for it? Is it worth it? And then you're going to have to decide whether, I'm from Virginia, are you going to go to Virginia? Are you going to go to North Carolina? Are you going to go to Tennessee? Are you going to go to Utah? There are a lot of options everywhere. And it's a matter of quality of life for your employees, finding the employees you want, seeing what you need. New Jersey, at least to some extent, is owning it. You're going to pay a lot more taxes here. You're going to get a lot more for it. It's up to you to decide whether that's a good value. It's as simple as that.
So the governor said no more taxes, but then the unemployment tax kicked in right after he said, that's it, no more taxes, but that was already in the works, right? So now that's kicked in, and it's kicked in hard on some businesses that were already severely battered. We had 60% of them left after COVID, and now they're facing this, and there's new laws impacting unemployment and the onus on business owners to help people get unemployment instead of helping people get back to work and trying to limit unemployment. How is that impacting businesses in the state?
Look, that is a huge issue that nobody in the government seems to want to talk about. And when I say that, that goes to the legislature too. They'll say, well, this is an issue that's on the table. People don't fully understand, but business owners do. When you're collecting unemployment, a lot of that comes from the business itself that's contributing to this unemployment insurance trust fund. That trust fund was deleted during COVID. Look, New Jersey had unbelievable unemployment benefits. We shut down earlier than most states. We came back up later than most states. All of that was come out. Now, the federal government gave a lot of money to a lot of states to do a lot of things. Most states use that to either completely replenish the unemployment, the UI tax, or to partially do it. New Jersey has not done it. They'll brag about how, we delayed the payment back, which is $1.5 billion over 3 years instead of 1 year, which is nice, but it's still $1.5 billion. Again, that goes back to the whole taxation issue. Yes, it's going to be more expensive to work here, and yes, the government's not going to help on that. To be fair, the government, right? If Tim Sullivan and the EDA is here, they're going to talk about the grant programs that the governor, and the state have set up for small businesses, where numerous times throughout the pandemic and in COVID release, businesses could apply for money here and there. If you ask most business owners, they're going to say that wasn't enough, and it certainly didn't have impact in the dollars that came out. If you ask the EDA or the governor's office, they're going to say, look, we gave more money back there than any other state. Again, this comes back to personal preference and whatever you want to see or decide. If you're a business owner, it all goes back to your bottom line. You have to decide if you're willing to stay here for the high cost that's going to be here to get the benefits that come with it.
Well, now that's interesting too, because before you mentioned about the businesses have to decide where they want to be based on where can they get employees, where can they get the quality employees that they want. People are having a really hard time getting employees in New Jersey, and obviously that has to be somewhat of a tax issue, in addition to the free money and people staying home longer than they needed to, or going home at all when business is locked down. But now people don't want to come back to work. Is that more so in New Jersey, where we had mandated lockdowns, than in other places where they didn't?
Look, I don't know. It's a phenomenon that people still can't understand. And I think we're going to need to come back in 10 or 20 years from now to figure this out. Fewer people are returned to work. There's a lot of different factors that go involved in this. You can't pin it on one side. One, you have a lot of people that, to use a word, were perhaps underpaid or exploited. You had people that went to the same job day after day, and then they decided, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't fair. I got a taste of doing something else. That's all great. At the end of the day, you got to be able to pay your rent. And if these people have another way to pay their rent, God bless them. I don't. I need to work to pay my rent, to pay for my kids. So you have that issue there. Are people not going to work more in New Jersey than other states? I don't know. It's funny. We just did a story where we talked to NJM, the insurance, car insurance and other insurance provider in the state. And one of the things that Mitch Livingston, the CEO, was saying was that their studies show that New Jersey has the highest percentage of people who are working remotely than any other state in the North Atlantic and in the Mideast that they cover. So it's an interesting phenomenon. You can't explain. There's jobs open everywhere. They just had a huge strip mall open by my house, and I drive by it every day. I said, look, where are they going to find the employees for this? Because the employees across the street at the ShopRite, they can't find employees. And it's not necessarily a matter of, if you just pay them more and more people will come.
Right.
Basic starting jobs are $15, $16, $17 an hour everywhere in the state, and they still can't fill them. So how this is going to get solved, I don't know. It's still maybe a game of chicken. I don't know how anybody hasn't returned to work at this point. The unemployment benefits are not what they were. There's no extra money. I don't know how these people are surviving. Some people have figured out a way. It's just an interesting phenomenon that we're going to see have to play out. But there's no way that you can say, well, because of New Jersey blank, it's the same in every state. We're no different. We're not facing a different challenge that other states are facing.
So I'm not going to ask you to give any stats on this or anything. I'm just asking you, have you interacted with business owners who have complained that the level of crime in New Jersey is any way impacting on their business or their ability to get clients or, employees or anything like that?
That is not something that's come up. We have not seen crime be an issue. I think the one thing that New Jersey has had, quite frankly, is even though we're quote unquote a blue state, and you hear about some of these other big cities in blue states where there's huge crime waves, I don't hear about that. In the big cities of the state, is there an overabundance of crime that's keeping people out? No. Did we have same thing goes back to when there was numerous social protests. New Jersey was pretty much calm and peaceful, whereas other cities were blown up around the country. So I don't rate crime as a huge issue in the state. If you talk to a business owner, there's not a fear of what you see in the smash and grab scenarios of other states around the country. That doesn't seem to be as big of an issue. The taxes are going to complain about, but I'm not hearing people so much complain about crime.
Tom, in 2020 and in 2021, there was a mass exodus of people from the state. But just as quickly as they left, other people moved into their homes. There were bidding wars for these homes. So as those homes went into bidding wars, does that mean that we got more high net worth, maybe more executive types in the state? So now we have a different level of employee, a differently qualified employee than we previously had. Do you see any function toward the business industry?
When you say mass exodus, I don't know where that comes from. There's a lot of different stats on this. The United Van Line study is humorously debunked. Are people going out? Are people coming in? Look, our population went up so much so that we grew in population more than almost every other Northeast state. Is that because more people came in, or is that because we did a better job of getting people to fill out the census? Generally when you talk about people coming in and out of state, they talk about, okay, this is going to be a lower socioeconomic person coming into the state. Well, if you look at the job scenario where we can't fill some of the basic entry level jobs that this type of demographic would fill, then that makes you wonder, well, are we really loading up on the lower end of the spectrum? And then when you talk about housing in my community and other communities, how it went through the roof during COVID and still has been pretty strong. Look, these are obviously going to be higher end jobs than they are doing it. Does that mean that there's more higher end executives? I can't give you the numbers. There's a lot of them. No one has been able to give a real strong idea about the state's population other than it is going up. Whether that's we're counting better or whether people are coming in, we don't know. And the exodus are really rich people trying to leave the state to avoid taxes. Yeah. Are they doing that in every other state in the union? Of course they are. That's the benefit of being rich. You can try to go somewhere where you don't have to pay as much taxes. So when you want to talk about general numbers in that, I said, I don't know which study or statistic you're talking about. The population growth in the state is always an interesting topic.
Tom, you have these power lists that you do for women, for people of color, for elected officials, real estate. I think you have food and beverage, you have diversity and inclusion, you've got manufacturing, healthcare was one you mentioned, law, education, technology. How do you get people on the power list? Is it the same heavy hitters each year, or is it based on initiatives that they have developed over the past recent time? Is it success? What's the criteria for those lists?
Can I say all of the above? This is a question that we get most frequently when we do our influencers list and all of the different categories that you mentioned, and there's probably a couple that you didn't mention. Look, it comes from a lot of things. One, it starts with our editorial team. We're covering the news of the state and the power players 365 days a year. So a lot of these people are known to us. Two, when it comes time to do a power list, we're often talking to people all the time and saying, hey, who's been influential? Who do you think gets the most done? One of the easy, cute starting points would be, will the blank take their call? Will the governor take their call? Will the head of this corporation take their call? Will the county executive take the call? That speaks to some sort of influence. But we also look for different people that, because of the actions that they're doing, is having a great influence, whether it's job creation, whether it's sector creation, whether it's moving. If you're in commercial real estate, where are you in a massive project that you may have started? If you're in a pharma company, did you have a release that had a bigger impact than other? If you're in higher education, what about your school? Are you building more? Did your enrollment comes up? Did your ranking come up? And don't start me about the rankings, because that's a whole nother story too. So really, it's all of the above, and we willingly seek nominations from people. People can email me or anyone on the editorial staff all the time and say, hey, we think this person deserves to be on blank list. And we say, okay, tell us why, give us the argument, and we'll go back for it. But the one thing that we always like to say for people on the list is generally these lists, are from not just our opinion, but even more from the opinion of the business world. So, I have people email me, thank you for putting me on the list. That was so nice of you. And I have to go back and say, look, I'd love to take credit for it, but know that other people, your colleagues, were saying that this person deserves to be on the list. That's where we get most of our influencer nominations. So the list turnover, I don't know the numbers. I'm going to guess maybe a third of it is new every year. Look, people are going to rise and fall, leave, retire, go to different jobs. It's always fun to find, we always love to find the diamonds in the rough that people don't know about, that are doing really cool stuff that's having influence. And influence doesn't have to mean $100 million or 10,000 jobs. It can be a small influence in one particular area where we can point to this person and say, because of something that they started, whether it's an initiative or a project, it led to X. And this is something that was good for the state. And we like to point those people out for others to see. Again, not only to honor that particular person, but for someone else to say, hey, they started that project in their community. Does that work in my community? Does that work at my business? We're really trying to spur growth around the state by letting people know, who's doing right and who's doing wrong, and good and bad and everything in between.
Tom, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. I can't believe we're already out of time. I had a lot more questions for you, and I'm sure the audience is very interested in everything you said and would have loved to have heard more. But I appreciate the time that you were able to give us today. And, thanks again. Hopefully we'll have you back in the future, and maybe we'll go over some of the lists next time.
That was fantastic. Thanks for having me. And anybody out there, feel free to reach out to me. You can find my information. We're just trying to find more information about the state so we can be a return on information, so to speak. Thanks for having me.
Take care, Tom. Have a great day.